Hello and welcome to a new episode of SportsDay Rangers. I'm John Blake.
And I'm Evan Grant. On this weekly spinoff of the Dallas Morning News SportsDay Insider podcast, John and I will talk about the latest on-field stories with the Rangers, chat with a current or former player, and take a trip down memory lane.
And we're back at the Dallas Morning News studio, so I can actually see Evan up close in person. He was on the road last week. How was New York, Evan, other than the games at Yankee Stadium?
Can we talk about the family part when my family came up afterwards and we did lots of fun stuff?
Probably better, yes.
Yeah, because the games weren't all that much fun to watch. More offensive struggles. But we did have a wonderful time in the city. I will say this, that both Chris Young and Bruce Bochy have good Italian recommendations in the city, so they gave us a couple, and we had a good time there. We went to Central Park. We walked the Brooklyn Bridge. There were a lot of cocktails had by the daughter and the wife. We had some pizza. What else did we do? We jammed a lot in. We went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art too.
That sounds like a fun trip. I'm actually going up to New York in a month or so to see relatives.
We didn't see any shows though.
Well, that's usually do when you go up to New York.
It's harder for me to get the shows, but nevertheless.
But anyway, as we digress, on this week's episode, we're going to review last week. Again, the Rangers still having some offensive woes. Went 1-5 on the road trip to New York and to the White Sox. We're also going to talk to Rangers first baseman Jake Burger. And this week's Archives is going to talk about Sports Illustrated covers. And with that, we'll see. We'll start going.
Well, one other thing. If you missed our last episode, you can find it in the SportsDay Rangers Insider podcast. We talked to former Rangers first baseman Mark Teixeira, and he revealed a pretty surprising post-career interest. And
again, if you want to interact with the show, you can do so on X, formerly Twitter. I'm at Ranger Blake, and Evan is at Evan P. Grant. Remember, there's a little space between the Evan, the P, and the Grant.
We call those underscores.
Yes. Okay.
Call those underscores. You can also reach out to the Dallas Morning News on any of the paper's social media channels. And again, find the podcast in the SportsDay Insider feed, wherever it is that you like to consume your podcasts.
And if you like the show, please give SportsDay Insider a rating and a review and let your friends know about the show.
Bottom of the ninth, bases loaded. Here comes Jimmy Dale from Baker Brothers Plumbing, AC, and Electrical.
Thanks, Chuck. When your home pitches curveballs, Baker Brothers knocks it out of the park.
Home run, Baker Brothers. Incredible.
As the official home service partner of your Texas Rangers, we're offering $300 off a tank or tankless water heater.
Another winning call. Visit callbakernow.com or dial 214-342-1171 today.
Baker Brothers.
Great service.
So let's get into the week that was. Again,
all the disclaimers are out of the way. Let's go.
The Rangers still struggling offensively on the road trip. It was kind of same old, same old. The bullpen showed a few cracks, but at the end of the trip, with an injury to Jock Peterson, they got a breath of life. We didn't think we'd see Alejandro Osuna as soon as we did, but he's made his major league debut, had 2 hits on Monday against Toronto. And can a guy like that help? Can he jumpstart it? Can he bring new life to a struggling offense?
Look, what did the Rangers end up calling a 21-year-old in 2023 that was called up, in an emergency circumstance when the team was, let's remember, kind of flailing around a little bit? I believe Evan Carter became the savior.
Right.
Alejandro Osuna is a guy who in a lot of ways has flown under the radar for the past couple of years, not as a primetime prospect, but a guy in the top 30. But this spring really showed out well. He's always been an on-base guy. He's always had good approach at the plate. But I think every scout, executive, and Rangers official that I talked to was just taken about with the energy that he plays the game and how he seemed to have a joy for the game. And he's Mexican, and I kind of made the comparison that he's a lot like Danny Rojas, the Mexican soccer player in Ted Lasso, I should say. And I think we've seen that. He made a great catch in left field in his first game, took a walk in his first game, took a really patient approach at the plate. And then against Kevin Gausman, a strike thrower who's got a great split finger fastball. He had a good approach in his second at bat. You know, he got the splitter, was able to wait back for it, and he was able to just reach out, and take that pitch and serve it into left field for a base hit. And sometimes that's what you need. You need those kinds of things to get rallies started. Not everything can be a home run. That did kind of fuel what should have been a rally for the Rangers in that Monday game against Toronto, because it followed a bloop single from Jonah Heim, and you had first and second with nobody out. And then the Rangers, bottom of the order, couldn't advance the guys.
And I've been impressed. I got to see him play in Frisco for a series earlier this year, and then the 2 games I've watched that we've seen him here in the big leagues. His quickness, especially his base running, and his ability to get to balls in the outfield are pretty amazing.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him for several years now. He was a guy who I had a personal affinity to among prospects, because I thought he's an on-base guy who runs well, and that always plays. I also think that, look, the Rangers probably would have liked for him to get more time than 8 games at AAA, but circumstances intervene.
Right.
And, as Chris Young told me on Monday, the opportunity is there for him to create more opportunity for himself. So the Rangers aren't necessarily looking at this as just a short-term move. If Alejandro Osuna performs, I think the Rangers are going to find ways to get him on the field. Now, that, I think, leads to other questions about this club.
Right, and Corey Seager should come off the injured list later this week, sometime this week. Get him back. Does he go back at shortstop full-time? Does he move into a DH mix? Evan Carter, probably not that much farther behind. So you've got multiple guys that could also play the outfield. They're still carrying 3 catchers. How do you kind of see that lineup kind of work? I know it's going to be the hot guy is going to play, right? The guy that – but how do you see Bruce Bochy kind of trying to work through all of that?
Well, I think once you get Corey Seager back, you will play him at shortstop primarily. He will get an occasional DH day, but Corey likes to play shortstop. So I think that gives you the opportunity to play Josh Smith a little bit at second base and get Marcus Semien a couple days off, maybe even a couple days off in a row to clear his head and work on the changes he's trying to make. I do think that Marcus is trying to hit line drives to right field, and we're seeing more balls to right field, but right now they're still fly balls. And so even when he hits them hard, I don't think he's got the power over on that side to drive them out. In the outfield, again, look, there's 2 guys in the lineup that, there's no way around it. Bruce Bochy has dropped them from where he intended them to be. Marcus dropped from leadoff to 5th. Adolis dropped from 4th to 5th and then 6th. And then in the last week, they've dropped to 8th and 9th. And I think at some point in time, if Adolis does not respond, you're going to see, his playing time cut into at least on the field. I could see the Rangers maybe using Adolis as a DH a little bit more often. Although, I mean, the most bedeviling part of all of this year is if you're thinking about Adolis Garcia and Marcus Semien slowing down, well, it certainly hasn't appeared on the defensive side of the ball. Adolis has played perhaps the best defense of his career. He's playing Gold Glove level defense in right field, and Marcus is still moving exceptionally well at second base, which should give you some encouragement that what has been going on with them is in some ways addressable offensively. So I do think, to your point, John, there will be the idea that if you've got 11 guys for nine everyday position spots, you should be in a good team. You should be in a good position. The question here still remains, can those 9 guys optimize their run scoring ability and start putting together some runs?
And that's a matter of finding the guys that can keep the line moving. Like we talked about, when this team has been successful, first 2 months in 2023, the real, and then the postseason of that year, they were able to keep the line moving offensively. That you didn't have you didn't put 2 on with nobody out, and then bang, 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 the inning's over.
And if you've got your full lineup moving in the right direction, and you do have a guy like Garcia who is prone to slumps and streaks, if he does go through a slump, it's a little bit easier to carry that guy in the 7th or 8th spot because everybody else around him is producing. When you've got 2 guys that are doing that, it does kind of tend to drag the offense down a little bit, and the Rangers need to get those guys moving forward. There's no way around it.
And a little bit on the bullpen now. We've seen some little cracks in the armor. The bullpen had held up pretty well for month and a half or so. These guys have seen a lot of work. Chris Martin going down kind of disrupted some of the flow. Luke Jackson now has been moved out of the closer's role. Another problem Bruce Bochy's trying to work through.
Yes, and I think there are some potential creative fixes, at least in the short term, when John Gray or Cody Bradford or Kamar Rocker, who's probably the closest to being ready, all come off the IL. Those guys could be used in a bullpen role in the short term to kind of fill out the bullpen. But yeah, I think we've seen some episodes where the bullpen has been worked hard early on, and that is the result is that you see some slumps there. And I think right now the overall thought process is the Rangers have spent 54 games with the offense being what it is, and it's not right now. And that doesn't mean it's not going to get right, and it doesn't mean that even if the offense has an uphill battle that this team can't make the playoffs. With the enlarged playoff field, I think it changes the entire dynamic. And where I'm getting at here is, while you're trying to fix the offense and it's not producing results, you do have to prioritize some other things. And I think what we saw in the start of the Toronto series is the Rangers prioritizing the care and health of Jacob deGrom, who had worked really hard in his last two outings, going 8 and 7 innings respectively, averaging 100 pitches per outing. Rangers backed off a little bit and took him out with 5 1/3 innings when they were down by a run. And I think that they will now, going into a stretch of the schedule where they've got much more regular off days, they'll be able to protect some of their starters a little bit. But I do think the idea of being a little bit more conscious of load management with Tyler Mahle and Jacob deGrom in particular is something that will be a little bit of a focus here in the short term. And I will just say this and get out of this segment again. The offense has not been great, but you don't need this offense to be great all year. I still maintain that if you can get everybody healthy and you can put together a nice 6-week run, just like the Rangers did at the beginning of the 2023 season, that can carry you, you know? And if you do that late in the year, like Detroit did last year, that really puts you in a good position to surge into the playoffs. So the Rangers are 3 games under 500 as we record this. I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that this is not a playoff team. It's got flaws, but I think it also needs to be underscored that there's a lot of experience here. There are a lot of good things here, the pitching and the defense in particular, and there is room for improvement on the offense. I think that a hot stretch can fix a lot of things that are wrong with this club.
So each week on Sports Day Rangers, we chat with a current or former Ranger. This week's guest is first baseman Jake Burger, and we'll talk to him next. Well, we're very excited on our third episode of the podcast to have our first active Ranger player, first baseman Jake Burger. Just everybody knows about Jake. He was a White Sox first-round draft pick back in 2017 out of Missouri State University. A couple of tough years with injuries, 2018, 2019, made his major league debut in 2021. Had a breakout season with the White Sox in 2023 and was traded to the Marlins at the trade deadline. Ended up with 34 homers, 80 RBIs, and split time between first and third base for Miami last season before being traded to the Rangers on last December the 11th. So, Jake, welcome, and we'll let Evan kick it off here.
Hey, listen, I think that we've talked a lot about this, but I'd love for you to just go in depth a little bit about what kind of approach you took to the assignment to Round Rock and how it changed really kind of the trajectory of your season.
Yeah, I think adversity happens to everybody, right? And for me, it's like I feel like I've dealt with my fair share of adversity as everybody else has. And, I think the biggest thing is how you respond to anything that happens to you. And I think that's always the biggest thing in life. All of us are going to deal with something going on. Whatever it may be, it's how you respond to that. And for me, it was, hey, I'm going to take this at full in stride. I'm going to take it in a positive attitude, take it in stride. And fortunately, I took my 3 days and I got my family settled back in Tennessee. So I had some really quality family time in May when you're not really used to that. I told my wife, I don't want to get used to seeing Tennessee in May, but it's beautiful here. And so had a really good 3 days at home and then met the team down in El Paso. And, for me, it's just about getting back to myself. I think the biggest thing on the field is just being who I am and knowing who I am, and not getting too passive, being my aggressive, on the hunt type self. And I think I lost that a little bit in the month of April. And but yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of it's mindset too. Evan and we've had some really good conversations about that in the clubhouse of, a lot of stuff's the 6 inches between your ears, more times than not. At this level of the game, it's a lot of mindset and mentality type stuff. And for me, it's take everything in stride, take it positively, and sometimes something that's perceived bad, in the overall spectrum, can be really, really good. And so that's how I took that.
John, when I had breakfast with Jake in spring training, and we talked about his daughter Penelope and the foundation that they've started to try and bring awareness and support for Down syndrome kids and families. And that was kind of the whole theme of his message, right? Was keep things in stride, and I think when he was sent down, I kind of exchanged messages with him, right, Jake, that, you have had worse things that you've had to deal with in your life. The injuries, like you mentioned, the long amount of time you were off. This is something you dealt with kind of as just another obstacle. But for me, one of the things that I thought was really endearing was it just so happened that at the same point in time that you were sent down, we had a papal conclave. And I'm still laughing about the idea that we're bringing the Pope into baseball. But get us, you came up with this thing, new Pope, new me. I know there was a connection for you as a Catholic to Pope Leo. But how did you kind of come up with that? And did it lighten your mood? Did you need that, the idea of kind of just lightening the burden a little bit?
Yeah, I think as Catholics, my family and I were obviously awaiting a new pope, and so happens that he's American and he's a baseball fan, and so I kind of took that in a positive light. I mean, hey, this is a new pope, and the team that drafted me, he was a fan of. You saw the videos of him at the White Sox World Series in 2005, and maybe he didn't like the initial trade from Chicago to Miami. Who knows? We'll never know. But I took it in a positive light, and I think tried to bring that type of fun, atmosphere, both down in El Paso and then when I got back up here. And I think it's really cool to kind of have something that is faith driven, but also, it's a bigger picture with the entire team and for myself. And, I think it's when you're going through stuff, whether it's performance based or whatever it may be, I think you gotta find the good hearted, fun, light stuff to talk about it as best you can. And so that's kind of how I took it.
Does it change your approach, Jake? And I'm just curious. Obviously, the team has struggled kind of as a whole offensively, and you have had your individual struggles back in April. Does that exacerbate the situation when you're going through it in April, that, boy, the whole team is going through it? Does that play into it for you, or did it?
Yeah, I think anytime you have a struggling offense, and especially as like a new guy over here, it's like, hey, I really feel like, they traded for me to hit home runs and bring some slug into the lineup. And when I'm not doing that, I kind of feel like I'm failing my duty as a trade piece, and so you're trying to hit that 5-run home run or whatever it may be a little too much, might get in the back of your head. It's like, damn, if I just would have hit that ball over the fence, we would have won 4-2 rather than 2-1 or lose 2-1, like whatever it may be. It's like, rather than just taking it at the micro moments and kind of, hey, like I gotta win each pitch. It doesn't matter about the overall numbers or the overall power numbers at this given date. It's winning each pitch and doing everything you can to put together really quality at bats. And I think for our offense here, there's so many talented, a lot of experienced players in this lineup that it's only a matter of time before we all get clicking on the same cylinders. Obviously you got to have a little bit of urgency. It's easy to say, "Oh, we got a lot of baseball left," which there is a lot of baseball left, but we also have to exhibit that urgency a little bit and how we go about it each night, and winning each pitch.
And you like the new Pope, new me thing, and your papal blessing when you reach base to everybody is a great thing. And like I said, it's one of those kind of fun moments that's also a stress breaker. And I think some guys have really responded to seeing you do that. Is there anything fun or strange that this team could do to try and break the hex offensively? Should we look at getting some sage in the clubhouse? What might be a good ritual to try and get the offense started?
Yeah, I mean, I might reach out to the diocese here and bring in some incense and just put it throughout the entire clubhouse. I don't know how many guys would like it. I love the smell of incense, but I don't know if it's if the full organization would appreciate it.
Hey, there is one other thing I wanted to ask you about on this team before John gets into some stuff from your past. But listen, with everything that's gone on, I don't think your adjustment to first base has gotten enough attention. And day in and day out, when we talk to Bruce Bochy about the defense, which has really been an asset for this team, he does single out just how quickly you seem to have gotten really comfortable over there. How do you feel around the bag right now at first base compared to when you were going over there for the first time as a full-time first baseman at the start of spring?
Yeah, I'm feeling really comfortable. I take a lot of pride in it. Most particular specific type plays are the picks and stuff. I feel like I've had probably 4 or 5 picks with runners in scoring position, 2 outs, and if I make the play, inning's over. If I miss it, it's a run scored. And I think I take a lot of pride in that aspect because I know what it's like to be on the other side. Making a long throw and not having a first baseman pick me up. And, it's obviously you're not upset at the guy for not picking you up, but I know how it feels to make that throw. It's like, if we just would have made that play, it's a different inning, a different ball game. And so take a lot of pride in that. And then, I think just the comfortability with Marcus over there is just getting better and better, just with what balls can he get to, what balls am I going for? That feels really good. But yeah, I think the more you play it, the more you're kind of the natural instincts just there of hey, I need to be here for a cutoff, or I need to be here for the base. And there's obviously still some weird plays where, I think last night, right? Varsho drag bunts to me. And I don't know if there's really any other play of how we positioned it, but talking through those with Ragsdale and talking through those with Marcus. And I think that just comes with experience and getting those plays more and more. But overall feeling I feel really comfortable over there. And a lot of that's credit to the guys that are around me. And then Ragsdale and I, from day one in spring training, just getting after it with footwork and hand presentation.
Okay. I do want to go back. I'm kind of a college baseball geek, and so you were drafted in 2017. You played affiliate ball that year. Then you were hurt for 2 full seasons. Didn't play a game in 2018 or 2019. And then as a young minor league player, you hit the pandemic, and you played for the O'Fallon Hoots in the United Prospect League. And I guess I wasn't aware that pro guys were able to play in college leagues during that pandemic season. How did that all come about, you playing basically in O'Fallon, Missouri?
Yeah, so how it kind of came about was the pandemic hit. I was going on my 3rd year of not playing organized baseball at all. Went back home to St. Louis and basically was all right, here's the decision to make, right? It's I can either work my butt off and see what happens at the end of this year. It's the Rule 5 year, or try and find other work. And for me, it was as with my family every single day. I was playing tennis with my sister and my mom every single day, walking, Pelotoning, stuff. We couldn't go to the gym, so it was just getting outside and being active. And kind of got to a point where I'm okay, I actually feel really good body wise. let's mix in some baseball stuff. And one of my buddies owns a cage in St. Louis, and so like it was just me and him going in there every day, and started feeling good that way. And I reached out to the White Sox, and I'm like, hey, like I just got word that they're having this like summer collegiate league here. They're gonna allow some pro ball players to play in it to get some at bats and stuff. Like, are you guys okay with me playing in it? And they're like, we think that's a great idea. And so signed up. I think it was like a $600 entry fee. Getting COVID tested every single day, but it was a lot of fun, and got to play with some college guys that I never would have met, and some of them are just awesome dudes that I still talk to. And my dad coached for a little bit. Joey Hawkins, who's the head coach at Missouri State, was our head coach for a while on that team. So just like surrounded with a lot of people from my past, and found joy again, playing baseball and not thinking about my Achilles. And at the end of that, I actually texted Chris Getz, who was the farm director at the time, the GM for the White Sox now. I texted him. I'm like, I can be up in Schaumburg, Illinois at the alt site in 5 hours if you need me, like right when the season ended. And he goes, you know what? I was just about to call you. We want to see you up here in a couple of days. And I'm like, there we go. And went up there, had a month at the alt site, and went to Instructs for 3 weeks, and got added to the 40-man.
Hey, Jake, before we let you get out of here, the work that you have done with the Jake Berger Family Foundation, or the Berger Family Foundation, that you and Ashlyn, your wife, have done is truly amazing. And for a player that is still establishing himself in terms of financially and establishing himself as a star, I think it's really admirable. You were recognized in San Francisco when the Rangers were there. You were recognized in Chicago when the Rangers were just there. Just kind of wanted to get an update, like on what the feedback has been since you guys launched the foundation, and how it's been received, and what you felt from fans.
Well, none of it's possible without my rock star wife, Ashlyn. I don't know how she does it with keeping up with the feral 2.5-year-old, and running the foundation as much as she can. It's just been kind of, I don't want to say mind blowing is the right term, but just like overwhelming in a sense of like love and support. It's just been, it's incredible. I'm at a loss for words, in a sense, just like seeing how each individual community kind of rallies around us. And we played in Chicago at the Cubs series, and it was, I don't know, like felt like 18 degrees. And I had the opportunity to meet a girl with Down syndrome that wants to be a sports podcaster, and I did a couple question Q&As with her, and then couple minutes later, a 30-year-old with Down syndrome was down like by the tunnel there, and had my jersey and wanted to trade me a Kit Kat, because I guess he saw that Kit Kat's my favorite candy, for a signed bat, and got to take a picture with him and talk to him and talk to his mom and dad. And it's just been overwhelming. Everywhere we go, we're getting support and love, no matter what. And for us, we feel like we're standing on the shoulders of giants with a lot of the organizations that have come before us, whether it's Gigi's Playhouse, and that's why we're doing our tour. Every single place we play, we go to Gigi's Playhouse, and or Best Buddies. We've done a lot of stuff with them, and they've done unbelievable work since the 60s with Down syndrome and families, and helping adults, kind of find their standing in the world. And so we feel like we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and we're just trying to honor the community any way we can. They've been unbelievable to us, both with our foundation, but also to us. We're a part of that community. And since we got the diagnosis with Penelope, it's been nothing but love and support, to myself, but more importantly to my wife. And for us, we feel like we're we're in a position and have the network that we have to, give back to that community any way we can. And that's why I'm wearing 21 every single night. And that's why everywhere we go, we're trying to honor this amazing community.
Last thing before you go, 5 very quick rapid fire questions. This is first thing that comes to the top of your mind. This is a little segment we call Better Get to Know a Ranger. You ready?
Yep.
All right. What does Jake like on his perfect burger?
Every single time I just
Of course.
I bounce around on this one, but it's been more times than not right now. It's been a barbecue burger. So there's barbecue sauce, caramelized onions, mushrooms, provolone, and I think that's it. Did I say mushrooms?
You said mushrooms. All
Yeah.
right. What was your first concert?
AC/DC.
What's your favorite sports memory that does not involve you?
Gosh, are you asking me this one, Ev?
Yes, I am.
I think you know the answer.
Do I?
And this is not going to be. I don't know if I can say this in Dallas.
Oh my God, it's 2011. We'll just skip that. Jake grew up a Cardinals fan. We're just going to go right past that.
Okay.
Jake, because too many people are going to be traumatized. Jake, have you ever personally asked for an autograph, and if so, from who?
Yeah, I have. I have a man cave with jerseys and guys that I watched growing up playing, and guys that I admire. I always try and get their autographs. So I've got a few. I think my favorite one is probably Clayton Kershaw. I have a signed jersey from him, and Miguel Cabrera are like my two favorites.
I'm just glad you didn't say David Freese.
There you go. All right, and last question. Describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
The rest of my life, like going forward, future. Yes. Beautiful family. Hit baseballs hard.
That's
It's almost like a haiku. That's perfect. Jake, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Hey, you had a reaction on the AC/DC. I want to know what you were thinking there.
I have you down as a Highway to Hell guy.
Okay. All right. Yeah. My dad loved AC/DC, and that's what I was raised on. So
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, man. We will talk to you later. Thanks so much for the time.
Thanks so much, Jake. So on the archives in Arlington this week, we're going to talk about something that PR guys back in the day were always trying to get, and that is their players or team on the cover of Sports Illustrated. These days, Sports Illustrated certainly isn't what it used to be. Comes out 12 times a year if you're lucky to get it. But back in the day, in 10, 15, 20 years ago, if you could get your team on the cover of Sports Illustrated, that was like a home run for a PR guy, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, because that was national. That was
it,
at that
right?
point.
So looking at the Rangers have been on the cover of Sports Illustrated 9 times.
In 52 years?
52 years. And we're going to talk about a couple of them today because June 2nd, which is coming up this week, is the occasion of 2 covers of Rangers on Sports Illustrated over the years. The first goes back to June 2nd, 1975, and it was Billy Martin, who was the manager at the time. The headline on the cover was Billy Martin, baseball's fiery genius. Now, everybody knows, or all Ranger fans know it, the Rangers hired Billy Martin September of 1973. The next year was the turnaround gang under Billy Martin. They went from 57 to 84 wins, finished second in the division in actually a fairly tight race with Oakland right down to the end. Fergie Jenkins won 25 games.
He beat the A's like 6 times that year.
Right, he did. It was unbelievable. Mike Hargrove was Rookie of the Year. Jeff Burrows was the most valuable player. And Billy got a lot of the credit. He was the UPI AL Manager of the Year. So the kind
UPI Kids was a data service, much like the Associated Press. It was a news wire. But go ahead, John.
Right. There was no BBWA Manager of the Year award at that point. And so what's kind of ironic is by the time Billy gets on this cover in June of 1975, the wheels had kind of come off for the Rangers. They lost 10 of 14. They were in fourth place. They were 6 back. So the story really wasn't real. It was about Billy as a fiery genius, but Billy was it was more just Billy as fiery at that point. And he was having trouble with management. He had a new owner. Bob Short had hired him. Brad Corbett had bought the team from Short in the latter half of the 74 season. And Billy and Brad did not see eye to eye. And kind of one of the last straws on Billy, he was fired on July 21st, was the 7th inning stretch where Billy told the guy doing the music he wanted to hear "Thank God I'm a Country Boy," where Brad Corbett had told Billy, "Look, we're going to play Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So Billy kind of went over Brad's head. They played "Thank God I'm a Country Boy," and that was about it for Billy. He was fired, as I said, on July 21st at 44 and 51. The Yankees hired him for the first of 5 times 2 weeks later, and the rest is history there. So Billy was on the cover of Sports Illustrated 4 times overall. And ironically, the last time in 1985, and again, Billy and Arlington have had a history. They had fired Yogi Berra in 85 in May, and his first game back was in Arlington. And the picture of Sports on the cover of Sports Illustrated was actually taken at Arlington Stadium of Billy in a Yankees uniform. But my favorite Billy Martin Arlington memory goes back to May 6, 1988. And many of you may have heard this. The Rangers had beaten the Yankees the night before 7-6. Billy had gotten thrown out of the game. And after the game, Billy and Mickey Mantle, actually, who lived in the Dallas area, his former teammate, and a couple other guys went over to this strip club called Lace, which was in Arlington at the time. And Billy, no matter the reports vary as to what happened, but Billy came out of there bloodied and bruised, requiring 40 stitches. Now, you would think Billy could have gotten back to the hotel, and they could have just said the next day he fell off a curb or something. But what happened was the Yankees were staying at the Arlington Hilton, and Harvey Green was their PR director, very bedraggled Harvey Green at the time. And Harvey and I were good friends. We went out to dinner after the game, and we're driving back up, pulled up to the Hilton. And there are people all over the street. There are fire trucks all over the place. And Harvey joked, Billy must have gotten into a fight. And what happened was
he had gotten into a fight. That's what had happened.
Somebody had pulled the fire alarm at the Arlington Hilton. There was and they'd evacuated the hotel, so people are out front. And George Steinbrenner, who was good friends with the owner at the time, Eddie Childs, was at the hotel. So everybody's out in the street, and all of a sudden a car pulls up, a cab pulls up, and Billy gets out, and the media are out there, and Billy staggering around, bloodied and bruised. And so what could have been kind of swept under the rug a little bit did not happen. It became a huge thing, and Billy got fired again about 2 months later. So that was the first Ranger ever on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Let's fast forward to June 2nd, 2008. And the headline and the picture on the cover was Josh Hamilton. And it was the unbelievable Josh Hamilton, his true story. And this was Josh's first year with the Rangers, been traded from Cincinnati, and it was an unbelievable thing. He won the American League Player of the Month award in April and May. Through the end of the month that year, he had in 59 games, he'd driven in 67 runs with an OPS over 1,000. And Evan, and you were there for kind of the Josh Hamilton phenomenon. This was the first of 2 covers for Josh. But what do you remember about that time?
Yeah, it's the funny thing, John, is when we talk about this, and I look back at the stats, the numbers were incredible for those first 2 months. hit 326 with a 974 OPS and 14 homers. But this maybe should tell you all you need to know about the Josh Hamilton phenomena is that the start of 2008, even though it ended up with a Sports Illustrated cover, for me, doesn't even fall like in the top 5 of my Hamilton memories. My first memory with Josh goes back to going to his home in North Carolina right after the trade and having a real sit down with him and going to see him talk and give testimony at a church that night, and having a guy come over and drug test him in the home to the point where Josh says to me, a perfect stranger, "Hey, you want to come see me pee?" And I said, "No, I'll pass on that, Josh. I'll take your word for it." But every year with Josh, there was an incredible number of interesting stories, and the things for me that stick out are still the MVP season in 2010, the home run in Game 6 of the World Series in 2011, and the 4-homer game in Baltimore in 2012. Those are the things that stick out. Also, the compassion that Josh showed after the fan fell, Mason Stone fell over the
Shannon Stone, 2011. Yep,
fell over the railing and tragically died at the ballpark in Arlington. But yeah, it was those 5 years of having Josh Hamilton, and then the 2015 return were just chock full of stories. Most of them really, really good. Some of them, unfortunately, on the other side. But it was a real privilege to have spent as much time as I did kind of chronicling this unbelievable phenomena. And he was, you mentioned Mickey Mantle a minute ago. He was Mickey Mantle. It's unfortunate that Josh's career was as short as it was, but for the 5 years that he spent in Arlington, he was as good a baseball player as I have ever seen.
And Josh and Nolan Ryan are the only 2 Rangers ever to be on 2 covers. The second time for Josh was after the 4-home run game in 2012, and that season did not end up well. Josh dropped the ball in Oakland, and the Rangers lost the division. They lost the wild card, and then Josh went on to the Angels. But like Evan says, for a PR guy in those days, one of the challenges, but also watching him every day when he was healthy and playing well, it was an absolute joy. So that's going to do it for episode 3 of Sports Day Rangers, and we thank you for joining us.
Don't forget to check out more sports content from the Dallas Morning News and the Sports Day Insider podcast with my pal Kevin Sherrington. He kind of likes John okay, but I don't know how much they really get along. We all have dinner every once in a while. And that podcast appears in the same podcast feed as this feed. It's the Sports Day Insider feed.
And if you have any questions for us, please ask them on X.
What if they have questions in Japanese?
They can do that too. I'll have my interpreter close by.
All right. Thanks to Jake Berger for joining us this week. We will talk to you all next week. It's always been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.